Hey, what are you doing in my dev tank? Right, you're here to learn how to develop black and white film. Good, well, today you're in for a treat because I'm going to be developing 2 rolls of fomapan 400. I'll be using DF96 Monobath, Cinestill's one-stop shop for development of black and white film. For any of you out there that haven't actually developed any film yet, trust me, it's not terrifying at all. Hopefully I'll be able to ease your mind when it comes to developing at home yourself. Once you do it, you'll realize it's not that bad. Start with black and white, dip your toes in, and then don't ever try and develop color film because it's a horrible I'll walk you through the process and what you'll need to get your film developed. So yeah, let's go. I'll give you another minute though. Okay, so this is all you need for developing black and white film at home. You want some chemicals, you want 2 rolls of film that you've shot, you want some scissors, you need one of these little guys. It's a little mechanism to pull the film out of your roll once you're done. You want 2 of these clips that hang your film up, so they open up like that, puncture the end of your film and hook that onto some string. 2 bulldog clips for the other end of your film to weight it and keep it straight. You're gonna want some photo flow, a chemical bottle, a Jobo tank of some kind, and some demineralized water. You can also just boil water and let it cool, up to you. Now there are a couple of other not 100% essential things that you can purchase if you have the cash to do so. Squeegee scissors, awesome for getting off any leftover water on your film. You want a couple of little jugs of different kinds for pouring different solutions, things like that. So this is one I use for photo flow. This is the one I use for my normal developer. And if you want to spend a heap of money, you can buy a sous vide or a Cinestill one. It's up to you. These basically keep your water temperature set to a certain degree. You can program it and have it running, set all your chemicals in the water bath, and you're good to go. You can also just use a thermometer. Woo! Black and white film is pretty easy to develop. You don't have to have it set at a certain temperature. You can actually just change your timings depending on what temp your film chemicals are at, which is where a thermometer comes in handy, because you can just go, hey, it's only 17 degrees, I'm gonna develop for X amount of time. Or you can use one of these guys, set the temperature to a certain degree, and then you can minimize some of the development time and save yourself some time. So, I come into my walk-in wardrobe to pull my film rolls out and put them into my Jobo tank. I'm gonna run you through how to do that. I'm gonna leave the lights on and use a dummy roll of film. Do not leave the lights on when you do this yourself. I thought I'd give you the rundown on how to retrieve the film lead. You'll need your film retriever and your roll of film. If the film roll is in like so, what you want to do is have your film retriever closed. You're going to slide that into your film roll, extend it like so. You're going to spin the end until you hear it click, like that. Once you hear the click, you want to roll the film back towards the film retriever while holding it until you can't push the film roll any further and there's a lot of resistance. Once you hit the resistance point, you really need to hold the film reel tight, and then you need to push and clasp the film retriever. I find putting a bit of resistance on the film retriever outwards helps catch the film, and you pull, you'll flick out like so, and then you can pull your film reel out. You can do this before you go into the dark, purely so it's a bit easier. I generally do that and try not to pull the film too far out so you don't lose any photos. At this point, you literally just want to cut your film, give it a bit of a curved edge straight across so it's flat, and then once you're in the dark, you'll need to pull out your film reels. While you're in the dark, you can feel for the curved edges on the film reel. Pull your film close to the reel, extend it slightly like so, and then you can pull your film into the reel slowly like so. Don't stress about fingerprints. Once you hit the very end of your roll, all you want to do is snip the end with your scissors and then place it back into your Jobo tank. Make sure the Jobo tank is sealed properly before taking it out of the dark so you don't get any light leaks. The next step in my process is to mix my chemicals. I'm going to use the demineralized water for this, and I'm going to mix them in this jug. I'll do the whole thing in the sink just so it's a little bit safer. I generally just use an old disposable chopstick to mix up my chemicals. You want to add about 600 to 700 mils of demineralized water into it, and then mix in part A, then mix in part B. You want good ventilation for this so that you're not breathing in chemicals. Once you've mixed the two together, you want to top the mixture up to 1000 millimeters. So just adding some more demineralized water, like so. That looks nearly completely dissolved. Once that is completed, if you're not going to use it straight away, you can transfer it directly to your chemical bottle. Otherwise, in this situation, you can measure your temperature or bring the liquid itself up to whatever temperature you are looking to develop at. Depending on what chemicals you're using in conjunction with different films, they'll all have different agitation times. I'll share a copy of the instructions for DF96 just so you can have a look. Say if I was doing it at 27 degrees and I wanted to constantly agitate, I'd only need to agitate the film for 3 minutes. For a normal development. Push one stop, I can do minimal for 6 minutes, or I can agitate for 3 minutes at 32 degrees and cut my time down. I'm going to try out pushing my film one stop at 32 degrees for 3 minutes. Just follow the guide, it's pretty simple. On the back, you do have a variety of different film stocks to choose from, so fomapan 400, ISO 400, normal development between 21 and 27. So in this instance, I'm going to use the Cinestill sous vide to bring the chemicals up to temperature. I'm going to place them at 32 degrees, so I only have to constantly agitate for 3 minutes. My current temp is 20.7 degrees, so you can easily set the temperature on this one. So if I set it to 32 and I just hit go, that's going to bring my temperature up to 32 degrees, and I'm going to follow this push process of pushing my film one stop. And basically I'll be developing it at 800, but if you're just looking to normally develop, you can do it at 27 degrees for 3 minutes constantly. I find this to be the best process to really make sure your film fully develops and you don't have any issues, and it's a lot quicker in comparison to doing minimal, intermittent developing. Okay, so the next stage of this development process, once you know the temp of your developer, you're going to want to pick your agitation method depending on that temperature. It's critical that you do not open this section of your Jobo tank, only the top. I'd also recommend, if you are using a sous vide, that you thoroughly rinse it after you're finished developing so that you don't mix any chemicals if you do ever do color development as well. I'd also recommend getting your stopwatch out on your phone so that you know exactly where you are at in your development process. Timing is pretty critical when it comes to this. What I'm going to do, take the lid off, hit start, and start pouring my developer in. I'm going to use about 500 mils of developer for this because I'm constantly agitating. You don't need to use it all. And then you basically are just going to rotate your tank in multiple different ways for 3 minutes straight. Once that's done, we're going to give it a rinse bath. Give it quite a few rinses with some of the demineralized water, and then we'll give it a bath with some photo flow, clean it with my squeegee scissors, and then you hang it up to dry for a few hours. There are a variety of different ways you can do this. You can also do this in a water bath, so you could just be spinning your tank in the water and keeping the temperature at 32 degrees the entire time. This should keep the water reasonably warm because I'm only doing it for 3 minutes. It should stay at around 32 degrees. You may lose a degree or two, and you can always extend the time by 10-20 seconds to make sure you're not underdeveloping. Once it's complete, pour back into your jug. Give that a minute. Give my hands a rinse because there's a little bit of chemical in there. The lid's straight back on for this one. Give it another shake around. We're going to do this quite a few times until the film is clear of any developer. I know some people will keep the demineralized water at the same temperature, but I'm not too fussed with that. It generally doesn't cause any differences in the results of the film that I develop. While you're doing this, you can always pour a tiny bit of photo flow into your pourer. Add some demineralized water to it. You only need a tiny bit of photo flow. It'll last forever. And I would say about 100 mils of water. Once you've thoroughly rinsed this, you can empty it and pour the photo flow in. From the photo flow, you can then rinse your film, maybe one more time, use the squeegees, and then you want to hang up your film. You can clean your film just with running water from the tap as well. You generally find it doesn't leave too much mineralization on the film itself. I guess it just depends how much of a stickler you are for maybe having a watermark or two. But generally the photo flow and the squeegee scissors will help with that anyway. You can see the bubbles in there, it's nothing to worry about. Pull that out, you can pull your films out, you can give them a once over. So generally pull apart the canister to your film. You can already see some of those have developed. Generally do this from either side. Only the once. And then, probably hard to see, it all touches the floor, but all you do is get your film holder, push it hard so that you hear it click through the film, and then this is good to hang up. Grab your bulldog clip to hang on the other end so your film stays straight. And then like so, hang them in the doorway, piece of string across the top, and that's just a super simple way to hang them up. You can hang them up in the shower. My shower is much more dusty than my downstairs office space, so this is where I choose to hang them up. The chemicals need to be stored in an airtight bottle so that they don't aerate. Once completed, just pour them straight into the container, get it all out, check the lid on that, really tighten it up. As they're light sensitive, you do want to keep them in a cupboard as well. I generally keep them in the cupboard underneath my sink. Down here, hidden in the dark. Safe for next time. My cleanup process is pretty straightforward. Just some running water. I'm going to rinse everything out. Try not to use too many chemicals like dish soap and things like that because it can affect your film in the future if there is residue left over in your development tank. I will generally soak this in a bit of water just because it did have chemicals all the way up inside of it. It's then time to kick back and relax with a book while you wait for your film to dry. Simple as that. One other thing, you will need to scan your films in some kind of form. I'm currently using an Epson V600, which is a photo film scanner, which works well for me, especially for black and white film. You can also set up and use a digital camera for scanning. I just haven't had the time to figure that out yet. I have a process with the Epson. I will scan my films in. I then use Lightroom Classic with the Negative Lab Pro plugin and convert my films that way. You can obviously set up a darkroom to do some darkroom prints. I unfortunately don't have the room for that. Another thing you can use to avoid dust on your films are these long film sleeves, which I have quite a few from local labs that I've just kept. They're super handy. Once your film is dry, you can lead the film into this, and then you can store your film in here until you have time to scan. I use archival gloves when I'm handling my film. You don't actually need these, but it stops fingerprints from being left on your film. You take the end of your film roll. If you have one of these sleeves, you just lead it in like so. It's going to stop any dust from settling on the film. At this point, you can also just cut your film up and have it ready for scanning. For me, I cut them into rows of 6 because that's how the Epson V600 takes film. Then you're going to chop the end off because I don't need this. There's one black and white roll done. Now, before processing anything, I generally use microfiber cloth. Really give the scanner a good once over to get rid of any big pieces of dust. I also use one of these guys to just blow any tiny pieces of dust left on my film scanner off. This is what you place your film in for an Epson V600. Simply click the top off. This has enough space for 6 shots, so you can measure out your 6 shots, cut the film here, place them into the holder, and then put it into your V600 or whatever scanner you're using. Perfect. Cool. Once that's done, give your film a once over. Make sure they're really lined up in there. Open your scanner up. You can give this a once over as well. Want to line this up, close the scanner, and then we'll jump on the computer. When you're in your scanning program, as you can see here, you're going to highlight the areas that you want to do bigger scans of, like so. You do want to leave a little around the edges so that you can white balance them later in Negative Lab Pro. Looks like there's a couple of light leaks on these early photos. I did also take this roll through an airplane x-ray, so it might not be the best quality results, unfortunately. I do like to boost the exposure a little bit when I'm scanning these and add a bit of tolerance. I generally, for black and white film, will set these to Ilford Delta 400, or you can always choose, say, Kodak Tri-X for a little bit more contrast. You want to set these scans to 32-bit HDRI RAW, because they will be scanned as the negative, and then you can take them into Negative Lab Pro. I set the photo quality to 300 DPI, and I set the resolution to 3200 PPI. They all look pretty good. I'll do a test scan on this one, and we'll see how it turns out. Waiting for scans can be pretty boring. Once your scan's complete, you want to move into Lightroom. Simply gonna import photo. First off, I'll crop the image a little bit, and then I'm gonna white balance. Normally I would white balance my photo first by clicking on the outside edge here, outside the frame. For some reason, Lightroom's not letting me do that right now, which is really fucking annoying. So we'll just run through this without white balancing. It'll probably make it a little bit darker of an image, but that's fine. So the settings that I'm using here is the TIFF scan. I'm gonna go black and white. I generally set the pre-saturation at a default. I'm not too fussed with that. And then hit convert negative. It's gonna come up like this. This is where you'll then run through adjusting and making the photo look the way you want it to. I generally go to about -15 for lab glow, and I add a little bit of lab fade to about 10. I'm gonna run the contrast probably a little bit higher on this one, so maybe at about 5. I generally drop my blacks to about -5. My whites I bring up a little bit as well, so maybe around 5. The darks here I'm probably gonna drop to about -2, and then the light I'm gonna bring up to maybe about 5 as well. This all looks pretty good. There's quite a fair bit of dust on here. There's a few little bits of dust on here which I can remove after the fact. I think that looks pretty good though. So if I hit apply, I'm going to use the healing tool to remove some of this dust. You can also remove these dust artifacts in Photoshop using the different color layers, but I'm not too fussed with that at the moment. I'm just going to simply go through with the healing tool, grab a couple of these. Once I'm satisfied with the photo, I can export this for printing or for social media, whatever I want to do with it. I'm pretty satisfied with this. It's a little underexposed, but it's a pretty good photo. I wasn't sure how this photo would turn out. I was in the CBD doing some photography and I saw some cops arresting this guy. I got up as close as I could to try and get some of the action in there, and I think it turned out pretty well. Anyways, thanks for watching my black and white development process and scanning tutorial. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll try and help out the best I can with my knowledge. Thanks for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm TJ. You've been tuned in to Surf the Chaos. Until next time, peace out.